Good morning, good evening, friends. Welcome to my channel, Ek Kitab Se Ek Moti. Today I'm going to read a portion from the book Christ of the Indian Road. This book was published in the 1920s. The portion that I'm selecting for today's video appears in the book How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Now, this passage is about drawing on spiritual resources or accessing extraordinary resources for our mind, body, and spirit, especially in times of pressure or when you have too much to do, but you sometimes might feel whether you really have the resources, the energy, the spiritual energy, the mental energy, and the physical energy to fulfill or to accomplish or to complete your tasks. So during those times, it helps to read read about someone who faced such a situation and was able to access spiritual resources to fulfill his tasks. Now, remember, as I've been saying in my videos, it doesn't matter from which book we take the idea, to which religion that person belongs, or from which source the idea has come. The question is whether we can adapt it to our situations and then draw the necessary lessons from these passages and implement them in our lives. So I think this is a universal message. It can be applied by anyone, any person with any kind of religious background, any faith that he adheres to or follows. So I'll just read this portion and then we'll have a brief discussion. The 8 years of strain had brought on a nervous exhaustion and brain fatigue, so that there were several collapses in India before I left for furlough. Furlough is a vacation, actually, a long holiday. On board ship, while speaking in a Sunday morning service, there was another collapse. I took a year's furlough in America. But in the midst of the strain of the meetings, my old trouble came back. There were several collapses. I went on to India with a deepening cloud upon me. Here I was beginning a new term of service in this trying climate and beginning it broken. I went straight to the hills upon arrival and took a complete rest for several months. I came down to the plains to try it out and found that I was just as badly off as ever. I went to the hills again. When I came down the second time, I saw that I could go no further. I was at the end of my resources. My health was shattered. Here I was facing this call and task, and yet utterly unprepared for it in every possible way. I saw that unless I got help from somewhere, I would have to give up my missionary career, go back to America, and go to work on a farm to try to regain my health. It was one of my darkest hours. At that time, I was in a meeting at Lucknow. While in prayer, not particularly thinking about myself, a voice seemed to say, "Are you yourself ready for this work to which I have called you?" I replied, "No, Lord, I'm done for. I've reached the end of my rope, that is, the end of my resources." The voice replied, "If you will turn that over to me and not worry about it, I will take care of it." Let me repeat. The voice replied, "If you will turn that over to me, that is, turn your life over to me and not worry about it, I will take care of it." I quickly answered, "Lord, I close the bargain right here." A great peace settled into my heart and pervaded me. I knew it was done. Life, abundant life, had taken possession of me. I was so lifted up that I scarcely touched the road as I quietly walked home that night. Every inch was holy ground. For days after that, I hardly knew I had a body. I went through the days working all day and far into the night, and came down to bedtime wondering why in the world I should ever go to bed at all, for there was not the slightest trace of tiredness of any kind. I seemed possessed by life and peace and rest. The question came as to whether I should tell this. I shrank from it, but I felt I should, and did. After that, it was sink or swim before everybody. But 9 of the most strenuous years of my life have gone by since then, and the old trouble has never returned, and I have never had such health. But it was more than a physical touch. I seem to have tapped new life for body, mind, and spirit. Life was on a permanently higher level, and I had done nothing but take it. Now, this is a spiritual experience, and this is kind of independent of one's faith, actually, because this type of religious experience, has, this kind of experience has been mentioned by people of all faiths. So you'll find this in all countries, in all religions. People of different religious backgrounds have had what you call this divine touch or spiritual experience. So I think there are quite a few examples mentioned in one of the books of William James. I think it's titled "Varieties of the Varieties of Religious Experience." In fact, William James mentions Swami Vivekananda as well in one of his chapters. I think as a note, there are some portions taken from Swami Vivekananda's books as well. So this religious or spiritual experience is the common property of all humanity, and it has been shared with others, by people of different religious backgrounds. So the reason I've chosen this is to talk about how this spiritual power can be tapped by anyone. So what E. Stanley Jones did was he was trying to take the responsibility of his life on his own shoulders. He was trying to carry everything himself. He was trying to use his own physical, mental, and spiritual energy through his own power. But then sometimes the tasks become so difficult or so overwhelming or insurmountable that we need some extra bit of energy to handle those tasks. That's when this divine source or tapping these divine resources can help us a lot. Now, this might seem a bit unscientific, but what if the person says that, he never felt like going to bed at all? That is, he used to work far into the night, as he says. For days after that, I hardly knew I had a body. I went through the days working all day and far into the night, and came down to bedtime wondering why in the world I should ever go to bed at all, for there was not the slightest trace of tiredness of any kind. Now, how does science explain it? I think it just proves that there is a spiritual touch in this world, and we all can access the divine power. So that's what is said in the Bhagavad Gita as well, the last important teaching that Sri Krishna delivers or gives to Arjuna. That is, he says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja. That is, give up all dharmas or all duties or all kinds of dharma is, it can be translated as virtues or certain traditions or certain duties. So leave all this and take my shelter. It doesn't mean that we run away from our responsibilities. It doesn't mean that we don't carry out our tasks. It means we give up personal responsibility and hand over the reins of our life to God. Turn your life over to God, and God will take over your life and give you new power, new energy, and new resources. I think that's why beginning our day with prayer is so powerful, because it lets us know that there is a divine connection that we have with God, and that in times of difficulty, trouble, problems, and especially when you have a huge task in front of you that seems insurmountable, you can expect a help from God. So that's what I wanted to mention. So let me conclude. So E. Stanley Jones was finding it difficult to handle his responsibilities in his life. He was getting what you then called nervous breakdowns. That is, he was kind of cracking up under pressure, and he was having trouble taking care of himself and taking care of his responsibilities. But then one day while he was praying, he had a spiritual experience in Lucknow, in Uttar Pradesh. Lucknow is just a few hundred kilometers from my place, Varanasi. So he was praying there, and he had a spiritual experience, and he seemed to hear the voice of God saying, "Are you ready to do the task for which I have called you?" And Stanley Jones said, "No, Lord, I'm done for. I'm at the end of my resources." So God said, "Turn it over to me and I'll take care of it." That is, turn your life over to me and don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. I'll give you health, vitality, energy to do your tasks, and you'll be a successful person in your life. And that's how it really became true. So Stanley Jones wrote several books, and he was one of the greatest speakers during his time. And Norman Vincent Peale mentions this, how Stanley Jones motivated him, and was one of the reasons why Norman Vincent Peale went on to become such a great positive thinker. And his book, a famous book, The Power of Positive Thinking, became world famous. So Stanley Jones had a hand in the transformation of Norman Vincent Peale as well. So that's it for today. So the essence is, or the takeaway is this: that is, when sometimes you feel that the tasks you have in front of you is too much to handle, then you shouldn't feel that you're alone, and that you need not just depend on your own physical, spiritual, and mental powers by surrendering to God as you conceive God to be. There is no discrimination, there is no idea that, or at least I don't subscribe to the idea that you have to have a particular religious background in order to access God's power. So you just surrender yourself to God, the supreme power that is running this universe, and you will get sufficient energy and power and vitality to accomplish and complete your tasks. Thanks for watching this video.